Hi, everyone, and welcome to a Mulberry Talent Partners Career Conversation. My name is Leah Pons, and I'm the Talent Acquisition Specialist here at Mulberry. About Mulberry, we are a full-service recruiting agency serving the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco Bay Area. Our specialty areas include human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. I encourage you to check out our website at mulberrytalent.com to view our previously recorded career conversations and our current job opportunities. So let's dive in. Today, we are joined by our founder, Lauren Francis, and Hannah Austin, CEO and founder of She Shatters. Prior to founding She Shatters, Hannah spent 20 years as an executive in the healthcare industry, where she faced pressure and witnessed her colleagues suffering the effects of burnout. After leaving corporate America, Hannah embarked on the journey to understand her burnout and navigate a way out. Through her recent Amazon best-selling book, Hello Head, Meet Heart, Hannah continues her mission to help professionals learn how to pass the torch, reboot, and recharge. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Hannah and Lauren.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this exciting conversation. I fortunate enough to meet Hannah last summer through a professional women's group that we both belong to and know many people in common. And I was just captured by her story and her message. And I had Hannah on my list of people to reach out to for 6 months. It was just one of those things where it just didn't get to it. And then I was fortunate enough to, then the book came out. And then I was fortunate enough to attend Hannah's book launch party last Friday night, which was a blast. I met her mother, who is a hoot, and her husband and all their amazing friends. It was just a wonderful time, very huge celebration. And I've been speaking on the topic of women, supporting women in all kinds of different ways. And Hannah's experience and what she shared and where she's going with this message for women is a big deal. And it's so important. So having Hannah on is really important to me personally. And I know that this conversation will resonate with so many of you. And so I'd love to turn it over to Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure everyone wants to hear about your story. And I don't know if that's where we should start. What do you think?
Sure. Thank you so much, Lauren and Leah, for having me today. Loved meeting you in person, Lauren, on Friday. Such a wonderful story about connecting women in the Portland metro area and then finally seeing each other after so many months. So that's very special. So thank you. I think I want to start today with those of you that are logging on today via Zoom. I just want to thank you for taking the time to jump on another Zoom call. I know we're all extremely busy and many of us have been burned out. And so this is just an opportunity for me to really share my story and hopefully speak to you guys today around if you're sitting at your desk in that moment thinking there's got to be more to life than this, or there's got to be something beyond burnout, or I don't know how to escape this darkness of burnout. This is the conversation for you today. So I'd love to open it up to at the end for questions like Leah and Lauren mentioned. But I want to start here. About 2.5 years ago, I worked for a large healthcare organization and it was my dream job, right? So at the age of 20 and 21, 22, my goal was to be ultimately hired at this organization. And I made it there at the age of 35, 36. But during COVID, I was tasked with being part of a team to build basically outside hospitals during COVID. And it was so challenging, Lauren, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week and loving what I did and loving my team, but just really realizing that for the last year, 2 years, my body had been slowly telling me to stop, take a break, reset. And I wasn't listening. And after talking with so many professionals and women from around the world the last couple of years, there's always that inner voice that says, I'm worried about you, or slow down, or stop. And you go on vacation and you think when you come back that it's going to be better. And often it's not. And so basically you just push the gas pedal, right? Keep going, keep moving, because you've got your family, your responsibilities. But at some point, either your body tells you, your body shuts down, or something paramount happens in your life. Someone gets sick, or you lose your job, or you take a new job, or life smacks you across the face and says, this is no longer working for you. And that's truly what happened to me from a healthcare lens. I crashed and burned in one of the hospitals that I was working in. And then the other piece was not just body, but it was really my spirit. I had one of the darkest moments of my life, Lauren, and I've shared this with you, and it's in chapter 1, basically the first 6 lines of the book, where I didn't want to live anymore. And I was contemplating ending my life. And that is a very big statement, especially at this day and age around mental health and being mindful of your feelings and what's going on in your career. But it wasn't that I wanted to end my life. It was that I wanted the life that I was living and the career that I was living to end. And those are really two different distinct things. And I think often as women, especially in our 40s and 50s, when we look back on our career and we've arrived or we've actually gotten the job or worked at the dream place, and you look around and you say, is this all there is? Is this what I worked for? I'm no longer fulfilled. Instead of looking that moment as a bright moment where it's okay, this is good information. How can I pivot? What can I do next? We look at it as there's something wrong with me. We start thinking about anxiety, depression. Is it hormonal? Like we start to catastrophize because that's what society has ingrained in us to do. What I really want to talk about today is looking at that moment or these moments in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, these defining decades, and think about, is this where I really want to be in the moment? Where do I really want to see myself? And if I'm in my 40s and my body's telling me to stop, or I have high blood pressure, or I'm not happy anymore, or I want to end my life, that's a moment for you to stop, pause, and really torture yourself and say, what do I want? What really brings me joy? And it's okay to be in a place in your life where it's maybe not the right place or you're feeling like it's not a good fit for you. And that is a really exciting moment, Lauren. That is the time where, Hello, Head, Meet Heart is such a great book to guide you through, helping you find the how-tos of your next steps and thinking of it as turning your darkest moment into your lighting moment.
Do you think many people are afraid to actually step back and pull that veil off?
Yes.
Because it's scary.
Yes.
You know how your life works and you've got all these guardrails on it, right? But then the actual act of opening that door is terrifying for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's how many of us have said to ourselves, God, this is so frustrating. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I feel like I'm at Groundhog Day in my mind. And we keep saying, this isn't working for me, but I'm scared to leave. It's a comfort zone. And I think the other piece that we really need to address is fear. And you and I've talked a little bit about this. And I think, Lauren, in preparing for this interview today, one of the biggest feedback I get from Hello, Head, Meet Heart is the Conversations with Fear chapter, which is around what do you do when you're scared, right? Your job isn't working for you. Your life isn't working for you anymore. But where do you go? What are the next steps to do? And I was queen of controlling everything in my life. Like I had borderline OCD of trying to control everything. But you have to get to the point, Lauren, where it's like what you're doing isn't working for you anymore. And that's more uncomfortable than leaping towards the fear and unknown. And the Conversations with Fear chapter is I challenge the reader, I challenge myself to lean into the fear, to ride the fear like a wave. Don't let it drown you. Write it. So what I mean by that is taking a journal, taking some 20-minute time of your busy day and journal and say, what is the fear saying to me? Is it saying that I'll never get another job? I'm not employable. I make $150K and I hold the benefits for my family and I can't leap towards something new because I'm it. As women, we often think we have to do it all and we hold all the cards. But the reality is the secret to writing the fear is leaning into asking questions, what opportunities are out there. And this kind of capitalizes completely with your line of work, exploring what else is out there when you are in an uncomfortable situation. So you don't have to quit your job. In fact, don't do it. Don't take my word for it. You have to basically explore and think, what else is out there for me? And partner with people like Lauren, partner with people like me to say, what do we really want? And what are our options out there? Because I think often as women and men, we put ourselves in a box where I'm an operations person. I was only looking for operational jobs. Never mind the fact that I loved innovation and creativity. I was actually stifling the second half of Hannah, and I was focusing more on operations. So what are you really wanting in your life? And what are you most fearful? And journaling about that, leaning into it. I have a lot of prompts and Conversations with Fear questions to ask yourself. But I think until you really tackle it head on, you're not going to know. And it's going to be like this big fear. And then this is the really important part, Lauren. often the fear are the messages that you've told yourself that actually are not true. Right. So for me, it was, I'm never going to get a better job. I'm never going to make as much money as I make here. And I realized very quickly when I left my job, oh my God, I had shortchanged myself for years, but that's what corporations want you to believe, right? They want you to believe that you're not going to have it better anywhere else. That's why they call it the golden handcuff scenario. So I challenge people to, in your own comfort zone, start to dip your toe into fear and start to harness and learn how to ride it. Right? Ride it like a crocodile, ride it like a horse. Really mentally and emotionally take the time and say, is this fear really true? Is what I'm telling myself really true? And then what is true, right? And explore the real truth within those lies that you're telling yourself.
You're right. And it's really embracing it. And you can't, to everyone out there, you cannot do this alone. Absolutely not. And I like the chapter when you reached out to your friend in Alaska, and your friend in Alaska is very honest. You have a good, trusting relationship. And if she says something to you, she's doing it for your own good. But you also had the courage to have that conversation, because sometimes there's a lot that we want to hide from or not address. And we have to go to those trusted partners and friendships to really understand. And it is partially maybe friendship or a psychologist and people like myself who are right there to help people that are at this place, because so many times people come to me and they have this conversation and I'm a stranger, but somehow I think with you, you can have those conversations with people and help them fairly quickly, giving them some of the tools that they need in order to have these conversations with themselves.
And I think it's about asking the right questions. One of the things that I've always now realized after looking back, and my employees in the past have told me, was I was a safe space for them. Like they could come into my office or they could see me in the hallway and say, I need a Hannah talk. And what that was, I'm a very direct person, Lauren. If I think you're full of SHIT, I will say, is that a lie? Are you saying that to yourself and do you believe it? I'll ask you really in-depth, direct questions and I'll say, tell me what you're feeling right now. Because how many of us say, how are you? And we're like, fine, everything's great. And you're crying in the bathroom or on the car on the way to work. Like I will say, how are you feeling right now? Okay, I'm happy. You don't really look happy. I see your face. Tell me more. I know you. I care about you. And so I think it's having that trusted relationship. And Lauren, traveling around the country and meeting these men and women, especially at universities and doing my book tour, what I'm hearing mostly is, I don't have anyone I can trust. I've got my friends and family. I've got my husband or my wife or my spouse. I have a best friend, but who can I really rely on at work? And those of us that have colleagues are great. You'll talk to them at the water cooler or talk to them on Zoom. But do you actually have someone? I want everyone on the phone to think about this today. Do you actually have someone that you can tell your innermost career thoughts to? You can say, gosh, I'm feeling like I'm getting passed over a promotion, or gosh, I'm feeling like I took this management responsibility when I was really a line staff and ooh, I'm in over my head and I'm scared. I need help. And so I really think as employees, we are all responsible for our own development. But at the same time, your organization is also responsible for your development. So when you're looking for a job, and I know you support this, Lauren, you want to find that fit between, it's like dating. Does that company align with who you are? If you are looking for more leadership opportunities, are you asking those questions in the interviews? Are you doing your deep dive research on, is that company is actually going to deliver? And then the other thing that I encourage when people are looking for a job or they have a job and they're looking to expand their horizons is message people on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard you work at that XYZ company. I'm thinking about applying for a job. Would you be willing to have virtual coffee with me? What is it really like to work there? Yeah. Because in my experience, I've worked for several healthcare companies in the world, around the world, and they tout themselves as being very employees specific. But when you actually talk to the employees, half of the leadership team is on high blood pressure medication and burned out. Is that where you really want to be leaping to? So that's where it's a really exciting time when you can actually research and think about, gosh, what is my dream company, or where do I really want to work? And start doing those tactical things to get there, which is your job as well as mine, building a plan for the future that you want.
And it's a plan. I think people think that they open the door and it's terrifying because they think they're going to fall off a cliff.
Yes.
And the truth is, it's a process and a plan. And it doesn't mean you quit your job. It doesn't mean you take these drastic measures. It means that you commit to what you always talk about is living an extraordinary life. So one of the questions is, what is the definition of living an extraordinary life? And what does that mean? What does that mean for people?
Yeah. So the original title for my book was From Ordinary to Extraordinary, right? And then people were like, when they started reading the book, the beta readers were like, it feels like you're saying an ordinary life. You're criticizing me for living a normal life. And I said, that's a great point. You're right. And so how I explain this is, I never knew that the life that I'm living right now was possible, Lauren. I thought for me as a woman, working myself in management and leadership to my 20s and 30s, having my North Star being I want to be a CEO of an organization, because isn't it sound cool to be CEO or girl boss? Because it's all over Instagram and I want to be that girl with the high heels. That is what we're taught to be like. And so for me, I never realized that there were actually ways and positions and companies, or I could create my own to really hone in on what I was really good at and capitalize and basically monetize, right? What my strengths were. I had no idea. I was thinking too small for myself. So I like to think of ordinary life as that Wizard of Oz movie, right? It starts out in black and white. You're going through the motions, you're getting in your car, you're driving to work, you're on 8 Zoom calls. At the end of the day, it's Taco Tuesday. It's just, you're existing. And in a way, and I talk about this in, I think, chapter 3 or 4 of my book, it's called Living an Unconscious Life. How many of us are just going through the motions? And what an extraordinary life is, when you are accessing your head and heart, right? What brings me joy? Ooh, this feels really good. Gosh, I feel like I'm making a difference in the world and with people I'm working with, or whatever it is that lights you up. That's when your life becomes Technicolor. So that Wizard of Oz, black and white, with Judy Garland, they show the red shoes, sparkly shoes for the first time. It's basically just saying, what lights me up? What gets me excited? Why do I do what I do? And if you can't answer what that is, or your why, or what brings you joy, that is a great piece of information for you to know, I'm living an unconscious life. I am not being an active participant. I am not on the driver's seat. Fear is in the driver's seat and I'm in the passenger seat, and you need to switch those right away. And the question is how? So many self-help books out there say, I'm going to help you, but they don't help you, because I've read a lot of them. This is a self-help book that actually helps. It actually says, these are the questions you need to be asking yourself to leap from ordinary to extraordinary, which is why I want to show you the cover of my book. Part of the reason why I made this is because it's a rainbow, right? There you go, Lauren. So it's basically, I purposely put a rainbow of colors because the rainbow represents fear, happiness, all these different emotions that are locked inside you that are wanting to be expressed, but you're stifling those because of the fear. And so I think when you hear the word extraordinary, it makes you think, gosh, that's so unattainable for me. Yeah. But the reality is, it's because you have to take the steps to get there. But the only way to start to take the steps is to take the first small step.
Right. Right. We put a cap on everything. That's what we do. But first, I do want to say that I love the way you lay the book out. It's easy for someone to access what you're saying. You talk about a section in the book, and then you lay out very clearly just steps. And then you feel like I've got a partner. I feel like I was so supported. I feel like I had you with me saying, okay, here we go. Yeah. And so sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm going to read this book and then I'm going to. It wasn't like that. It was, I'm reading it and experiencing it and acting all at the same time, which was wonderful. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was about when I was reading, I was saying, oh my gosh, I have so many of my 2 daughters' friends come and say to me, hey, can I talk to you about their careers? And these are early stage. This is 23 to 28. Yes. And there's a lot of confusion out there about what's next for them. And there's not a roadmap. And there's a lot of confusion about what is my purpose? What am I doing? Their career in many cases looks very different from the way you and I started. Yes. And so they are more thoughtful about their pausing. That's the thing. I see them in pause mode. Yes. Tell me about what you've also witnessed, because I think this book is also very good for that group as well. You don't have to reach burnout, but they're not burning at all. Exactly. They haven't started their
fire. And they're just
Right,
at the
sure
moment,
is.
they're collecting sticks or whatever. Yeah. Such great points. You and I talked about this a little bit. One of the most unintentional consequences of this book is I thought, I'm writing this book for women and people like me who are done with the career ladder of the world. Is this all there is? And then when I launched the book, Lauren, I had DMs and texts and emails from strangers around the world saying, I'm not burned out, but I feel like I'm better equipped now. There's also so many women and universities, and I just presented at Indiana University Kokomo a couple weeks ago, where women came up to me after my presentation and said, I want you to be my coach. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what I don't know. And to your point, when you're starting off earlier in your career, women like you, women like me, and you say, I want to be like them. And then you just get a job and you start going, right? And so it's okay. If you really want to be a CEO, or if you really want to be a manager or leader, how does that feel? Try that on, right? Put on a piece of clothing or try it on. The way to do that is getting an internship. The way to do that is reaching out to someone like you and me, Lauren, and saying, what is it really like to be a CEO? What is it really like to own your own business? Talk to me about your lifestyles and really trying that life on before you delve into it. I think the second piece to that is it's okay to change your mind. I really wish I would have had a woman like me and like you who said, Hannah, it's okay. This isn't what you want anymore. It was what you wanted 10 years ago or 20 years ago. This is your opportunity. This is just more information. And we're going to build a new plan. And your new plan is going to be better than you ever expected. You're going to start your own company. You're not going to be CEO of one of the healthcare organizations in the world. You're going to make your own company. How much more rewarding can that be, Lauren, when someone says to you who you trust and love, you're dreaming too small. You can think bigger. And then helping develop a plan to get there. What does that look like? Who do you need to network with? What classes do you need to take? And that's all about mentorship and having the session ladder in your mind, right? And so it's picking a North Star every decade, picking a North Star when you're feeling like your body and your mind and your heart is saying, Lauren, this doesn't feel right. And you're listening, and then you're saying, okay, now's the time for the North Star to pivot. So I think not just aiming for one career or one track. That's old school, Lauren. These women and these employees are so much smarter than we are because they've had the experience, or they've watched their moms, or they've watched their dads make choices, different things like that. So I feel really excited for the next generation to be able to stop and pause and say, what do I really want? And I'm building a career around the life I want, not building a life around the career. Those are two different things as well. And so I think it's about reframing in your mind, what do I want my life to look like? And how do I want to feel going to work? And that's been the crux and the exodus about the pandemic and the people leaving, the great resignation, because people are finally saying, I want to live, I don't want to work, right? I want to live to work, work to live, that type of thing. I really want to change my paradigm. And frankly, Lauren, people have the opportunity to.
Absolutely. I'm reading another book called Start, Stay, or Leave. And he talks about start with the end in mind. What do you want your life to look like? And we're not talking about a title or anything like it. Really comes down to what kind of a person are you? Are you a good friend? Do you want to have healthy relationships? Do you want to have, what do you want your life to look like? What kind of abundance and joy and those things? And then work your way backwards. So there's different ways. It depends on what's resonating with different people and how they want to do that. You do need to jump in. You do need to learn from others. That's how we grow and prosper in our lives, is having those connections and those relationships and taking care of those connections and relationships and how to do that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. That's again, that how question, right? We can tote all day long, live your dreams, be mindful, meditate, work your life backwards, aim for a North Star. But the question is how. And that's what I wanted to be very conscious in. I love what you said about the fact that the book is laid out in a certain way. So I took my own advice. How do I want the reader to feel when they pick up Hello, Head, Meet, Heart? And what it was, I wanted them to feel not alone. I wanted them to feel like this is going to be a journey. It's going to take work, but you're going to get to a destination. And the destination is going to be different depending on how much you put into the book. And I wanted them ultimately to feel at the end of the book where, oh my God, I cried, I laughed, I cried, I laughed. I did all these emotions throughout the book. And at the end, you end on hope, where it's go out into the world and chart your own course, but know that these tools are always going to be here for you. And that's the biggest compliment I think a reader or an author can get is, your book actually helped me, And it made me think differently in a non-threatening manner. You've got me literally, you said it, cheering the reader on, saying, I've got you. The other piece is, Lauren, I've been there. So this is me. This book is my innermost thoughts, my most vulnerable moment, sharing with the world. From the outside, everything looked great, jovial, positive person. But on the inside, I was a flippin' disaster and I was a good faker. And so how many of us are so perfect on the outside or so nobody would know it, but on the inside, we're really yearning for something. And so I wanted the reader to feel like safe and that there's hope.
And I think that's the thing. I think people are looking for authentic, to have what you just said, like you're truthful, you're authentic, and you're accessible.
Yeah.
And actually, as you go on in time, you feel more comfortable feeling authentic. It's not scary to share a thought or a feeling. It's actually more just part of how
It's
you
breathing. It's breathing. If I'm truly honest with myself, and Lauren, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, being a career woman and being CEO, what I aspire to be, right? Is if this makes sense to anybody on the call, I felt like I was holding my breath a lot. Like I was, okay, I just got through that conference call. I just got through that business plan. I just finished my 10 to 12 hour day. Did anybody notice? Did I drop any balls? I felt like I was on this cliff constantly. Am I going to fall? And then after the cliff comes the whip. So I had a should whip. You should have done this. You should have done that. And I was kept constantly whipping myself. And frankly, that's why I was so good at what I was doing, but I was also exhausted and it felt like work. And so I guess my dream for those readers and people on the call today is, what is something that you do and be where you feel like it's absolutely effortless, right? Where when you get up, you're actually breathing, you're not holding your breath, you're exhaling and you're going, God, that felt really good. And so I would challenge the people on the call, even if you get the book or not, to just make a list of those things that felt so good and keep doing that, right? And then perfect life, perfect design would be find a job or a way to make money where you are able to breathe. I know that sounds small, but you're able to just be yourself.
True. So much. So how can people work with you? I know you've written the book, you've got She Shatters. Do you have counseling available, or tell people how they can benefit from your work and your wisdom and experience?
Sure. So I think if you feel like asking for help and you're looking for a coach, I do coaching, right? One-on-one coaching. I don't do group coaching because my goal is to really make sure that people get to their North Star and their destination. And I have a personal approach. I also do organizational wellness. So this is really a passion that's close to me where I go into organizations. So if you are a woman or a man at your organization right now and you're like, gosh, we need more training on XYZ, I basically go, I'm boots on the ground, and I say to the leadership team, this is what your employees are really doing, what they're really feeling, and let's build a plan to make sure that they can breathe and you can breathe. And then I have an international podcast, which we're on Spotify and Apple. But I think the quickest and best way to get to know me and see if I'm a good fit is to read the book. And for those people who have a lower budget, certainly available on Kindle, under $5. And then we certainly have the paperback. And I encourage people to get the paperback because it is a journal, right? You're starting to write in the margins and you're starting to do your personal work. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. But you can always visit me on www.sheshatters.com.
Yeah, for sure. And what did you say in your book? Let's look at it really quick before we head up, when we finish up here. I think you said, take my hand and together we will explore an extraordinary life. I love that.
Yeah. And I mean it. I've had people around the world DM me, message me. I do all of my own commenting back. I respond because I think it's really important that if you need help and you've reached out to me, that I'm there for you. So take my hand and let's make it fun. I will bring snacks. You're in the driver's seat and I will bring snacks, cheering you on to that extraordinary life.
I love it. Oh gosh. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah. This was such a lovely conversation. And I hope that, I'm just sure it resonated with everyone that attended.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks again. Have a good weekend, everyone. And we'll be in touch again soon. Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.